Hello, my name is Lori Bradner, and I'm broadcasting live with the Florida Aviation Network. We are here celebrating the 45th Annual Sun and Fun at the Aerospace Center for Excellence at Lakeland Linder International Airport. And I am so thrilled to be here with you again today. We've got a beautiful day, and we are topping off our day with the most wonderful guests. Dr. William Busch with Stallion 51. Dr. Busch, it's so nice to have you. We are so thrilled to have you here. Now, Dr. Busch, I always love to find out because I would like you to tell us, where did your love of aviation start? How did you get into aviation?
That's a very interesting question, and it's very fortuitous that I happened to stumble upon it.
Okay.
There's
a story here.
There's a story. I mean, I'd never flown an airplane. I never knew a pilot. Didn't have any brothers, family, fathers, uncles.
Right.
I was getting ready to graduate from college in the Midwest, and I knew that I wanted to go do something of interest, so I started approaching the military recruiters.
Okay.
And this is in the mid-'70s. All
right.
And I'll make the story sort of short, but the reality is I went to various recruiters, and when I got to the Navy recruiter, he must have taken a shine to me because he gave me some aptitude tests and says, well, you qualify for flight training. Would you like to apply to be a pilot?
Okay.
And I said, well, I don't know. I've never flown a plane. I don't know if I'll like it. And the Navy recruiter said, trust me, you'll like it. So I signed up and went down and did the AOCS in Pensacola.
Okay.
And of course, the whole time I'm thinking, well, I'll do 3 years in the Navy and then I'll go back and be a crop duster. That was my visions.
Really?
But I'd never piloted an airplane. So anyway, so I get to Navy flight school and I'm figuring I'll be done in 3 years. Well, it took me almost 30 to get out. I joined for 3, I thought. It took me almost 30 to get out because it was just so much fun. It was exciting. There was challenges. There was a new horizon. I mean, there was something to do all the time during those 30 years. I never got bored.
I love it.
Incidentally, the first aircraft I ever flew, I was a flight student in the Navy, and it was a T-28.
Okay.
A B model.
Wow.
With a 1,400 horsepower engine on it.
Okay.
And so now, about a year and a half ago, I decided I had to have one, so I bought one.
You did.
And that's where I just landed before I came right here. So basically,
hence the flight suit.
Came straight from the aircraft.
Well, we are so thrilled. Now, I have to ask you because, so you've got both the civilian and the military, but you're also an ophthalmologist. So you're also a doctor. So can you, I'm trying to put the stories together. Can you put the stories together?
Like I was alluding to, the military is one big adventure. That can be a few years or it can be 30 years. Right. It's always an adventure. So literally, I was a naval aviator, and then I met a man who was a doctor and a pilot. His name was Sonny Carter. He ended up being an astronaut, a famous astronaut.
He did.
And basically, he said, well, you can apply to this program. So I applied to this Navy program, and they accepted me. So I went to medical school on a Navy scholarship.
Outstanding.
And then after that, I came back and was back in the cockpit flying, and I was a flight surgeon. So I was a doctor pilot, like this gent, Sonny Carter.
Okay.
And so I did that for a number of years, and then I decided, well, okay, what's next on the horizon? So then I went to Bethesda at the National Naval Medical Center and trained in ophthalmology.
Wow.
And then that takes a few years.
Right.
And then I went and did a few other things. I mean, the point is it all boiled down to quite a few years.
Now, you are known, really, I have to tell you, you're really known as the aviation doctor. You are the AVDOC right here. And one of the things that I think you have been a champion of, and I love this, and I love what you wrote in your notes. You said getting the FAA to say yes. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? And I know that has to do with the flight physicals. Why are you championing that for pilots, for new pilots, for pilots that are renewing? What have you seen that has really helped to guide you in that and really helped to lead you to really being that champion to get them to say yes?
That's a long question.
I know it is. I'm great at long questions.
Well, aviation medicine, there's no rocket science to it.
Okay.
It's really straightforward, but what it really requires is persistence to navigate the government and the FAA. I mean, the FAA is not your enemy, they're your friend, but there's a lot of things to navigate. So it's all about putting yourself in a good state of health, going through the motions, and if you have to have a special issuance or a waiver because you've got some issue, it's all about being persistent and doing what they require of you.
Okay. What are the biggest stumbling blocks? What have you seen, Dr. Busch? What are some of the stumbling blocks that people run into?
I presume you're talking about people that have issues.
Yes.
I mean, let's face it. It's hard for a 20-year-old not to pass his flight physical.
Right.
Or her.
Right.
I mean, they walk in, they're in perfect health and everything's great. So
Okay.
we're talking about people that may be a little older or have medical history.
Right.
What's the pitfalls? Again, when you apply for a waiver to the FAA, which the FAA calls an authorization for special issuance,
Okay.
basically you have a condition, they'll let you know, or you'll find out through your AME what is required to submit to prove that you're capable still to fly an aircraft even though you have a medical condition.
Okay.
Now, the FAA doctors and their whole hierarchy analyze that. It goes up the food chain and down the food chain out at the FAA, but the big picture is they want to qualify the pilot. They want to have
They
the
want to
pilot.
say yes.
They want to say yes, but
Okay.
they have guidelines.
Okay.
The FAA is charged with keeping the airways safe. Okay, and they do that, the doctors do that aeromedically, physiologically. So they have rules and guidelines depending on specific diseases. Basically, each pilot's packet is individually worked.
Okay.
It's hard to really say what's the standard protocol. Some of the common things, blood pressure, diabetes, have standard protocols.
Okay.
But you start getting away from that, everybody's an individual.
Okay.
The FAA doctors try to make the pegs fit so they can give you a waiver, a special issuance.
Right.
And over 95%, it might even be 98% of the people that apply for special issuance get it. And
Really?
the number one reason they don't get it is because they lose interest or they fail to provide the things that they request.
Okay.
They fail to provide those.
So it's really about, one of the keys that I read, really as someone that's trying to recert, or if I will, get another, if I'm going for a flight physical, is really to listen to your AME. Is that, that sounds like that's a key right there.
Well, obviously, if you're in good health and don't have any issues, that's a no-brainer.
Right, exactly.
Okay, but if you have issues, listen to the AME.
Not all of us are 20.
Correct.
Yeah, 25.
I'm aware of that, folks. But, listen to the AME, listen to what the guidelines, the FAA will send you documents, a letter telling you specifically what to do.
Okay.
And here's another little side note issue. The FAA, it's their game and their ball. So when they tell you they want X, Y, and Z, and you take it to your doctor, and your doctor says, well, I don't do Y anymore because that's an old test, or I don't think you need it. Well, that's not for him to decide. If he doesn't give you that test, you need to call me or your AME to have a chat with the doctor to make sure he understands that it doesn't matter what he thinks, it matters what the FAA thinks. Fair enough?
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, that's awesome. Now, let me ask you, one of the things that I wanted to ask you too is is there a way that you can help pilots? You were talking about the guidelines that are sent. Are there websites, are there sources that people can use? Number one, if they're interested in flying, maybe they're late onset and they're interested in flying. Where do they go to find this information? Where do they go to get these guidelines?
You can go to FAA.gov
Okay.
and ask specific questions.
Okay.
You can go to the general internet,
Okay.
and if you plug something in your search engine, it'll still come up with a lot of FAA stuff and documents.
Okay.
You can call AOPA,
Right.
which is good. You can
Excellent.
call an AME.
Okay.
I have guys calling me all the time to say, they're 50 years old and they want to now take flight lessons and
Right.
become a hobby pilot, and they have some issues and they want to have a chat with me. So that's what an AME would do. We
Okay.
give them advice.
Okay. So then you just guide them through the process with their own personal physician, correct? I'm trying to
You don't
understand
really
the
need
process.
to talk to, the AME doesn't need to talk to the personal physician unless there's a rub.
Okay.
If there's no rub, it's all on
It's all-
autopilot.
It's all done.
It's all
Awesome.
just about what the FAA is going to require based on that physical condition.
Okay.
And some of the things are easy. High blood pressure that's controlled, that's real easy now. 15, 20 years ago, every year you had to have an EKG, a doctor's note, serial blood pressures, lab work, and all that. Well, now blood pressure is common and it's well controlled, and there's lots of good medicines out there, almost all of which are approved by the FAA. So now you just fill out a form.
What about heart issues? I have a good friend of mine that has had some heart issues, and that was, of course, years ago, and it ended up grounding him. How are they looking at that now with some of the new technology and some of the progress that they've made medically?
Well, the FAA is concerned with things that will suddenly incapacitate you.
Right.
If you've got a heart condition and you apply for an FAA medical, they will, you should be, for the first time, you should be deferred from your AME if it's a serious heart condition. Then weeks later, the FAA will send the doctor, the AME, and the pilot a letter with a few pages saying what they want you to do to prove that you are physically fit enough, even though you have a heart condition.
Okay.
And it varies. I mean, it's stuff like a nuclear stress test or a regular stress test or an echo or this, that, labs, full clinical cardiology workup. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff you can do.
Right.
So you just prove that you're physically fit enough based on their standards. But the fact is, there's people that can get waivers, special issuance, I have to keep saying,
right,
that have had heart attacks, stents,
right,
new valves
That's
put in,
what I was going to ask.
bypasses, all this stuff.
Okay, so that is possible. So if someone has had that, that should not keep them from their love of aviation or their love of wanting to fly.
It's all, I mean, it's all possible. I mentioned earlier that, 90, I don't know what it is, it's greater than 95%, it might be 98% of those that apply for the special issuance actually get it.
Wow. They want to say yes. The bottom line is the FAA
yes, but
wants to say
they
yes.
are charged with keeping the airways safe, and they've got a big list of stuff and how they do each one of the things.
Well, it seems to me, keeping it safe for one keeps it safe for all. Absolutely. Right. Now, I know that you are going to be doing a forum today. It is at 11 o'clock, am I correct?
Correct.
And it's going to be at the Central Florida Aerospace Academy.
Correct.
Room 6. Can you give us a little, I don't want you to give away
this.
I believe it isn't. Yes, I have room 6. Did you want another room?
I wanted room 7. But that's okay.
I'll see what I can do. Maybe we can, we'll talk to Obi, see what he can do. But what... Can you give us I don't want you to give away all the secrets, but can you give our guests that are listening a preview about what they're going to hear at your forum today?
Well, we're going to talk a lot about what we just talked about.
Okay.
And then we're going to expound, and half of the thing is going to be individual question and answers. So, it's their chance to pick my brain. Okay. I'm not the smartest guy around, but I am educated. Okay, so the point is, come and pick my brain.
I beg to differ,
I'll give them my best answer, whether they like it or not.
There you go. Awesome. Now, I wanted to ask you, how did you get involved? And for those that don't know, I know we've talked before and you've told me, but how did you get involved with Stallion 51?
Well, Stallion 51, Lee Lauderbeck and Doug Schultz and I met back in the 80s.
Okay.
And Doug was a prior naval aviator.
All right.
And I was a naval aviator. I had just gotten out of my medical training, so it was somewhere around 88 or something, plus or minus. And, we all liked each other and got along, and we just kept in touch. And then fast forward, 18 years or something, I was getting ready to retire from the Navy, and Lee says, come on down and we'll put a medical clinic in the Stallion 51 complex, and I can be the AME, and I can fly my plane and have fun and work a little bit and be a service to the aviators and have more fun. Right. And then do a little more work and then have more fun, that sort of stuff. That's how it works.
Love it. I love it. Now, let me ask you quickly, for those, we're always, of course, one of the goals of Sun and Fun is to promote aviation, especially the young people, and to promote aviation as a future, as a career. Very intrigued and wanted you to I'm really interested in your advice for the young students that are the Central Florida Aerospace Academy. You went the military route and went from your military and then were able to complete your medical training, etc. What would you recommend? What piece of advice would you give to all of our high school students and some of our young students that you see?
What piece of advice would I give to a high school student who wanted to pursue a career in aviation? Whether it's military or civilian?
Doesn't matter.
Well, that's interesting. Basically, obviously watch your health and stay in good shape, but that's not really much of an issue for a 16-year-old.
Right.
Avoid obesity, eat well, but, lead a clean lifestyle. Smoking and drinking, curtail that or keep it under control. Right. Definitely don't do drugs. Drugs are not acceptable in aviation, and if you get a history of a drug arrest or a drug history of any kind, that'll follow you clear through. So you need to avoid all that stuff. Right. You need to avoid problems with the law. Okay, that'll follow you on aviation. So drugs, alcohol events, and problems with the law. Work hard, study, define your goals and pursue them. And then the last thing is, be careful with certain diagnoses that are out there that are irritating to guys like me.
Okay.
Those would
now
be,
I have to ask you.
Yes, you're going to ask me what those are.
Yes, I am.
Those would be the depression, anxiety, and ADHD diagnoses. Those entities all exist.
Right. Please
and
speak
they're
to
real.
that, because we hear a lot of that in schools.
Well, I see a lot of it too.
Okay.
Because times have changed.
Yes.
Times have changed. When I was in school, basically myself and another kid, at the start of every day, we were taken out in the hallway and paddled.
Yeah.
Just because we were thinking about being bad. And it's kind of funny because his dad was the town doctor and my dad was on the school board. So it's not exactly like we didn't have some clout and we got paddled every day. Well, nowadays they don't do that. They have a tendency to, I'm going to say this, I might offend some doctors, but there's a little bit of over-diagnosing going on with these things. And so I have a pet peeve about that. Okay. So if you've got a problem, get it evaluated by a professional. Right?
Right.
If you have a mental health issue, get it evaluated by a mental health expert.
Is important because we do see that. That's interesting. You should mention that because outside of the Florida Aviation Network, I'm a teacher. So I've been in the high schools, the middle schools, and the elementary schools. And I can tell you over the 10 years, we've seen an increase, just those of us that are actually in the classroom. Someone that is being treated for ADHD, do those medicines that they use to treat them, will that preclude you from, if you're still on those, would that preclude you from a military career in aviation or from pursuing an aviation career? I'm interested because I don't know. Would that do that?
It won't preclude you from it.
Okay.
But you'll have to go through a waiver process of special issuance. If you have a history, because ADHD is a mental illness.
Right.
And if it's real, it's real. But every kid that shoots a spitball doesn't necessarily have it.
Right.
If that was the case, every fighter pilot I know would have been diagnosed because they were all lively and lots of fun. And they definitely shot spitballs when they were in high school and grade school.
They probably still do.
They probably still do, exactly. So I'm just saying, be careful with those things.
Right.
They're real things, but just be careful because you don't want to be overdiagnosed. And again, you're not dead in the water. You can still overcome it. Just like instead of the 18-year-old coming and being a quick, how can you flunk an 18-year-old? He's in great shape. Now he's got this history. He or she's got this history.
Okay.
And as a teacher, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think I want to say thank you to you for your advice, and thank you for your advice to young people. That's something that, we want to get that message out to all of the young people that we see in schools.
You know, as a teacher, if a kid's acting out, there's 10 reasons why, and only one of them is ADHD. So why don't you rule out the other 9 first? Fair enough?
I like that, and I think that that's absolutely fair. Absolutely fair. Well, I tell you what, we're so excited. So again today, room 6, unfortunately not 7, but room 6, you're going to be doing a forum so people can come see, talk to you, and you're going to be asking any question. They can bring any question to you.
They can ask any question. I'm not sure if I can give any answer.
That will be awesome.
I'll do my best.
You'll do your best. Now, tell me again. Now, you just flew in. How long are you going to be here? Are you also doing forums tomorrow, or let's give a preview in case someone can't get here today? Will you be talking tomorrow as well?
No, I'm not scheduled tomorrow.
You're not
Actually,
scheduled.
I did it on Thursday too, so this is a repeat.
So today is it.
Yeah, and I'll be here through the evening time for the night air show and all that.
Okay, and then when do you fly back? When are you going to fly out?
I'm going to fly out in the morning.
In the morning. So you're here for the night air show?
I am. The night air show and all the festivities.
Well, that is just awesome. And please know how much we appreciate you, Dr. Busch, for being here. And thank you for flying right in and just stepping right onto our set and doing that. And again, a quick reminder, today, the forum, I'm going to say this one more time, make sure people get it, 11 o'clock, room 6. Now, if they miss you, can they see you? Are you going to be at Stallion 51?
They can come by Stallion 51. We have a trailer, or a camp. We have a pavilion out there.
Awesome.
It's on the flight line in the Warbird area. I'll be hanging out there most of the day. Awesome. And if I'm not, then there'll be a gal there named Beth,
Okay.
who's my assistant, and she always knows where I'm at.
All right. We will
And I
ask
ended
her.
that sentence in a preposition. How'd you like that?
Well,
that shows that I'm from the Midwest.
It is, and me too, so it worked for me. Anyway, Dr. Busch, thank you so much for being with us here at the Florida Aviation Network. I appreciate you. This has been wonderful talking to you. My name is Lori Bradner. I'm with Florida Aviation Network. We are celebrating 45 years of sun and fun at the Aerospace Center for Excellence at Lakeland International Airport. Come see us. We've got a beautiful day today. Come see us today.